Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. I'm Jane Monreal, and you are watching Live Impact News on WCNC+. Okay, so here in the Charlotte area and really our surrounding counties up to the mountains, we are expecting rain. Our Chris Mulcahy is in the Live Impact studio already, so early. Thanks for coming in, Chris, because we need to talk about these storms heading our way. And shall we be weather alert today?
Do you want to think that's a good idea? Let's do it. Let's go weather alert. And the main time frame here is going to be anywhere from noon till 7 o'clock. But I'm going to actually iron that down because as I joked earlier, that's like the cable company saying, here, we'll be here any point in the afternoon. You need to be able to plan a little bit better than that. So I think the Charlotte area specifically is going to see things between about 2 and 4 o'clock. That's kind of the magic hour. The thing that's really tough about these scenarios is that they often will accelerate. So sometimes they can exceed the line, and that's why we've really factored this in here. And yesterday we were talking about 2 to 8 for the time frame. We moved it up, and I think realistically 7 we might be all clear from severe, and I'm talking about even as far east as Richmond County around Rockingham. All right, so heavy rain, strong winds, and isolated hail are all going to be a possibility. If we see sunshine, it's not going to be a good scenario. And what's actually really interesting, 30 minutes ago, you were actually seeing some blue sky for this camera. What's happening right now is that's the fog burning off. So fog, literally, once it starts to warm up, it rises up, and then eventually it will dissipate. So fog is a ground cloud. When it gets above our head, it's a stratus cloud, and that's what we're seeing here. And then eventually, we are going to see a decent amount of sunshine going forward. We don't see much happening on the Doppler radar for right now, but I think you're going to see a line of storms as early as 11 to noon for our North Carolina mountains, because here it is, the main event. Here, I'm going to stop this. This cold front is a perfect recipe underneath a low-pressure system, because low-pressure system is going to allow the atmosphere to spin. That's the wind shear. That's what cranks it up to be a stronger thunderstorm, and it could also twist it enough that we have a supercell or a chance for a spin-up tornado. So we have all those ingredients in place that anything goes. I call it the trifecta: chance for hail, chance for damaging winds, and a chance for a spin-up tornado. The thing with the tornadoes, though, we know how isolated they are, but they produce the most damage in that small stint. So right now, that front is going to arrive later in the evening, but it's the prefrontal boundary that's already almost to the Tennessee state line. It's 9 o'clock, so that's why I said at 11 o'clock. It could be here in Watauga, right around Ashe and Avery County. So let's take a closer look here. Right now, just some thunder and lightning. I'm not seeing any active warnings with this. We have them turned on. No active watches right now. There is a chance that we could actually have an active watch because check this out. This is actually a brand new update from our severe weather outlook. The SPC looks like they just upgraded us to a high threshold for severe storms, and that's starting right around the Charlotte area. And this actually doesn't surprise me because the further east that you go, the more unstable it's going to be. So, Jane, you asked this question yesterday, and I thought this was great, that you said, why is it a lesser chance in the mountains compared to here? And it's just because I think the peak of the storms, the main line, will be in the area of red from about 3 to 5 o'clock. And during that time, we usually hit our high temperature. The warmer the temperature, the more unstable we are. That's also the peak moisture. So that's why we're seeing this.
Okay. Very good. So then we're going to be on guard starting around noon, really.
Yeah, and we're going to break it down even further. So our tornado parameter is showing a low risk here, but what I have this broken down into is your tornado threat, your hail threat, and your wind damage threat. Winds have always been the number one because I think it's going to be the leading edge of this line of thunderstorms that could potentially allow for a stronger burst or even a downburst of wind. And it's that area red that's the strongest, but all of us will have a chance for gusty winds from 40 to 60 miles per hour, some getting a little bit higher. Usually whenever we're put into an enhanced risk, which is the high on our key here, that is a better chance, maybe even gusts up to about 70 miles per hour. And I'll show you the radar signature here in a sec, but I want to focus in on the tornado parameter a little bit more. Underneath that low pressure system is where you have that most spin and that most wind shear. So I think it's that area, that sweet spot there, which could also include parts of Salisbury over to Concord, Statesville, Hickory even. That's where I think that you would have a better chance for a tornado to be embedded along this line. Storm fuel is high, but it's not the highest I've ever seen. That's the only thing that's kind of helping us out. But you start to see some of those yellows really start to burst the further east that you go. So again, I think it's really east of I-77 that has the best chance for this. Tornado parameter, anytime we see a number here, knows how it really starts to flourish right around Raleigh. So that's where I think it's going to be the biggest severe weather outbreak and probably the most damage, which is actually in our favor. So if you live west of I-77, I'm not disregarding your chance for severe storms. I just think it's going to be much higher and a lot more prevalent the further east that you go, which could be a saving grace for a lot of us. All right. Here's our future cast. This is a brand new update, so the models would have shown and factored in the newest atmospheric data to see what's happening here. This is 1 o'clock, and this is actually even faster than what I was showing between about 7 and 8 earlier on WCNC+. So that pushes storms into Lincolnton right around 1 o'clock. This likely would be some torrential downpours, probably gusts up to 40 around Shelby come 1 o'clock. Now, once you get to 2 o'clock, it's Charlotte. So I've been calling about 2 to 4, and that's the reason why we have a 2-hour window. I would not be surprised if there's some areas in Charlotte or at least nearby, Gaston County, Lincoln County, that you could even have an active severe thunderstorm warning by about 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So that's why we have this wide open window between about noon and 7. I don't think it needs to last till 7 because look what happens. Here about 3 o'clock, this is where we're seeing a change. So this is actually a really good piece of weather IQ here. And let me bring up a pointer tool. Oftentimes along a line, you're going to have stronger pieces. Sometimes when you have stronger winds, certain parts of it start to bow out, and that's what we're seeing here. If you remember the red, that pretty much cuts right across Charlotte into this zone. So I think what's going to happen is areas to the south and areas to the north are going to take a lot of the energy away. So sometimes it can be maddening for people who say, so what are you talking about? It didn't storm. But then meanwhile, your friend 20 miles away has wind damage at their house. Right. Because sometimes the broken parts of the segment are going to be all the difference, where you have just rain and gusty winds compared to the damaging winds or the spin-up tornado. So I want everyone to keep this, even though we haven't been really harping on the tornado threat. These are the ones that are always sneaky, that sometimes a rain-wrapped tornado and the tornado warning could be issued, but something already happened. You got to treat it like you could have winds that exceed 60 to 80 miles per hour at any point during these situations, even though likely they're going to be below that threshold. By about 5 o'clock, the heaviest storms, as we've seen, the biggest concern are in the central part of the state. So realistically, by the end of the commute, we should be good to go. So stay weather alert, even though I have the 7 o'clock time frame. I was thinking about moving back and was like, better safe than sorry, just in case something slows down. But this is moving faster than it was. I think at one point we could have a few severe thunderstorm warnings that are saying that this storm is moving up to 55 miles per hour. Wouldn't be surprised.
Wow, why so fast? And why are the winds picking up?
Because as the internal winds within a storm get stronger, those little bows that I was saying like that, it starts to drive things. Yeah, the shrimp. Yeah. So picture that you're putting pretty much the pedal to the metal right there. They're stepping on the gas. So as they're trying to drive forward, they're actually dragging the rest of the storm system with them. Okay. So they tend to go a lot faster. So sometimes you can have them moving at 60 miles per hour with a chance of winds produced up to 60 miles per hour. So it's almost like dragging a dog on a leash kind of through the area. And cold fronts tend to do this as well because it's like a pendulum where it swings through. So kind of then as it's picking up that momentum, it'll push through the area. But the good news is by this evening, we should have the all clear, maybe a chance for a little bit of rain, still gusty wind out of the cooler direction, but our window's going to be quick. Literally, that leading edge, the worse the weather, the worse the damage can happen in a couple of minutes or within a 10-minute period.
All right, so this is App State right now, live picture there.
It's the Hickory campus.
Hickory campus.
Okay, you mentioned Hickory.
Yeah.
It's the weather. I'm like, it's gorgeous.
It looks great right now.
That is great, but bad.
Right? That's bad news, right? Like how beautiful it is.
Yeah, you always hear Brad say this. Is like, oh, it's a beautiful day. That's terrible news. Because the more sunshine you see, the more unstable the atmosphere gets, because that allows us to get a little bit warmer. Ideally, the best case is when you have a bunch of rain beforehand and there's not a lot of cloud cover, because that doesn't allow it to really hit its maximum. So the more sunshine, the more blue sky that you're seeing, and the longer it lasts. That's also another case of what we were saying. Raleigh is going to see sunshine pretty much going forward from about like now to 10 o'clock up until about 5 o'clock. That's most of the day. That's destabilizing for the entirety of the day. Charlotte doesn't hit that peak temperature yet. If we had this line moving a little bit slower, and say if Charlotte was going to be impacted at 5 o'clock, our high temperatures would be in the lower to the mid-80s. We're only reaching the upper 70s. 5 degrees is all the difference for this. And it also, yesterday, was better storm fuel. Did anyone get dumped on yesterday?
No, not on the way home, but it was this morning I saw that my truck was drenched, like downpour sometime last night.
Yeah, sometime when I drove in last night after I did some errands, some people's cars were covered and then some people's were completely dry.
Yeah.
So Stanley County, there are some roads that are out of water. I actually had a radar estimate that potentially 3 to 5 inches of rain fell over a couple of hours.
Oh, wow.
So we're not going to see anything that way as far as rain goes, but that also shows it was a lot more humid, so that was more storm fuel as well. So we have some things working against us, but we have a lot that's actually working for us. But I want to show the Guy Roofing 7-day forecast, and then we're going to move on to the weekend if you don't have any other questions after this. We had the lower 80s, but then if you like the heat, we're turning it back up to 88 degrees. By the way, June officially starts on Sunday. That's the start of the Atlantic hurricane season, and it feels like June. It'll start to feel humid and sticky again. Saturday is actually the best feeling day we have this week.
So if you want to do anything outdoors this weekend, probably tomorrow's the better day.
100%. And I'm going to actually show you the reason why coming up. So the reason why is we have a front that's going to dip down towards the south, and this is not being picked up on radar apps. This is just what I'm seeing a little bit earlier. I've now upped this to a 30% chance. It might be a little bit higher, because watch. We have this front that says goodbye, filters in some drier air, but then this little guy sneaks in. Once this arrives, I think north of the I-40 corridor, you might have some rain. So say if you're having pool day tomorrow, you will have a chance for storms, I would say, heading into the evening. But most of the day stays dry. I think you pick up more clouds throughout the afternoon.
You mentioned wind for tomorrow, right?
Yes, and winds are going to be gusting from 25 to 30 miles per hour.
If I'm going to a child's birthday party where there's outside and there's going to be tablecloths on tables, they might be a little blustery.
I'm also going to a child's birthday party. I probably should tell the parents about this.
Yeah.
Yes. I actually separated a segment over on our version of WCNC Plus in the studio just talking about the winds, because we're so focused on the severe front that people, I think, overlook the winds more than any other parameter in the severe weather, because they're like, oh, look at the temperature, look what it is. And then all of a sudden during the wintertime, it's like, oh, wow, it's really cold because of the wind. Or, oh, wow, my napkins are blowing down the road because of the wind. So, Carlene, I'm glad that you brought that up. Heck yeah, because anyone, it's going to be outside, outdoor picnics and things like that could be blowing all over the place, especially in the middle of the afternoon. Winds are always usually lighter earlier in the day. Once you hit that peak heating, it's the temperature differential that has the biggest impacts. All right, so I want to show you what we could see potentially this weekend. All right, hold on one sec. All right, here we go. All right, so there's the line of storms. You could have a leftover shower. All right, let's get to Saturday. Okay, so let's stop it right here. That's 7 a.m. I think you're good. We pick up more clouds. That's what those little spotty guys are through the afternoon. But notice what happens as we work our way consistently throughout the day. Here it is. Right about 5 o'clock. So I think it's by the end of the afternoon, primarily north of the 485 loop, that we're starting to see a few storms. We potentially could see these drift past the area, so don't be surprised if you get nipped by one of these later on in the evening. But then your Sunday is a whole different beast. And look at this. It becomes actually widespread. And this wasn't showing up earlier, so I don't want people to get caught off guard. So Jane gave you the best advice of the weekend, that if you were, should I do it on Saturday or Sunday? Saturday.
Mow the lawn tomorrow or Sunday?
Yes. And
yes.
yeah. Sunday, I think you could do it in the morning.
Okay.
And honestly, this is going to be a broken line. I think this might be a little more aggressive than what actually happens. But whenever you're seeing this day 3 and the front's going to be around there, because what's going to happen is the front will stall out. Once it starts heating up, it'll start firing up more clouds. Once you start seeing some darker cloud bottoms, that's going to be the first sign. Because most likely you'll have fair weather cumulus. They'll start to grow. Once you see those clouds getting a little bit taller, that's your time saying that your window of clearing is probably coming to an end. You're not necessarily going to 100% see these showers. They're just becoming more scattered. And you could really see, I think, at most widespread, I think mid to late afternoon. Down in South Carolina, it's most prevalent to end the afternoon and begin the evening, and then after that, we're going to be drying out nicely. So I just want to kind of give you some of those caveats of the weekend outside of our weather alert day. So a lot to look forward to, but a lot to kind of look out for as well.
Right. I mean, look, we're looking at Buncombe County right now. And the
there
clouds are forming. They're there. I feel like no one's really gotten a break from the clouds and the rain and all that all week since last weekend.
It really is interesting because Majestic was saying this, one of our newest members. It's so cloudy, and we've lived here for a while. It's usually not this cloudy during the springtime. This is more like of a Great Lakes type of forecast, where we at one point hadn't seen the sunshine for 3 blank days, to quote a Kid Rock song. But you can see some of those darker clouds off. Oh no, put your picture away. But what's really interesting, I brought up radar. You can actually see why you have some darker clouds right around Buncombe County. Check it out over in Asheville. They're actually picking up on the first bands of showers associated with this. That's the best case in scenario for them, because they're already seeing cloud cover before this front arrives, so they have a much lower severe potential compared to what we have. Since we are seeing the sunshine, that's why likely the SPC put us into the red compared to some of the yellows and the oranges that we're seeing to the west. So you gotta stay weather aware. Again, I think noon to 6 especially for us. Charlotte primarily around 2 to 3 is where we're going to be impacted by that. Anything goes. After that, it's just kind of dodging showers here and there for an okay weekend.
All right. Right now, nice and calm in Uptown, although cloudy, but pretty good walk if you want to grab that cup of coffee on your Friday morning. Chris Mulcahy, anything else we need to know?
I don't know. Just that I wish you all well, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Oh, we wish you the same.
Thank you.
And thank you for the song and the dance.
Oh, of course. Well, we didn't get to dance so much, but maybe next hour.
Next hour. Oh, yes. We are going to see you a little bit later, because it is one of those days.
One of those days.
That's what Mama said. Mama said it'll be days like this. Chris Mulcahy, we'll see you in about an hour. Thank you very much, keeping us on our toes in the Live Impact studio here on WCNC Plus. All right, get your little break. You've been working. You've been working. All right. Right now, we want to switch gears, because as we wrap up Mental Health Awareness Month, we are joined by someone whose story really embodies the power of transformation as well as resilience. Brittany Eric is a certified hypnotherapist. She's an inspirational life coach. I'm putting in my IFB here, Brittany. And Brittany, you've turned your life, your experiences into this purpose. Thank you for joining us here this morning. How you doing? I know you're joining us from 3 hours earlier. I think you're in Phoenix area.
I'm doing really amazing. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing great. It's Friday here. We have the pleasure of talking to you and wrapping up Mental Awareness Month for the month of May. What does this month mean to you personally?
Me personally, as an individual, this month is a month where we can spread awareness of how important mental health is. We focus so much on how much like physical things we can contribute and how big our house is, but without your mental health, there's nothing. So for me, since I was a little girl, it's been my passion and my purpose to, one, heal myself from my own trauma and help others.
I know you and I have been talking earlier this week in preparation for today, and your story starts really young. As a baby, even you were put into the foster care system. As far as your childhood history goes, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small little cute town, and my mom struggled with her mental health for a very long time. And because of that, my mom struggled to take care of me. So once she had me, my Aunt Roxy helped a lot. And my mom dated very abusive drug addict men. And because of that, foster care got called as early as 9 months old. My mom also married another addict. So because of that, I was a ward of the state at 9 months old. And shortly after that, there's CPS reports of me being thrown into refrigerators and just some really bad, traumatic, hard things that we all, a lot of people that I see go through. Sadly, one of the things that I've learned through the last 10 years of practicing is I've heard more traumatic, sad, hard stories than I've heard bright and beautiful stories where people had amazing childhoods. For me, my childhood was the foundation for me to be the person I am today, to serve my community and make sure people know that no matter how pretty you look, no matter how much you're put together, someone could be struggling with their mental health. So because of my childhood, I'm very capable of like noticing when people are struggling, because I struggle, every day too. I'm human finally. I had a feeding tube for 13 years and it made me feel like I wasn't human. That's why I said that statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing enough, though, to have the wherewithal at a particularly young age and then go through it. You've walked the walk and you can share that experience with your patients and clients. But then at a certain point in your adulthood to have to visit that and work through the wounds of your past. Still an ongoing process, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say I'm healed, and I'm so happy for them that they feel that way. But for me and the people I serve, like it's an everyday practice, just like working out, just like brushing your teeth, you practice like health and wealth and healing. And, I have complex PTSD. I got diagnosed a couple years ago, and it kind of changed everything for me because all my trauma at once hit me. So I wrote my book. I worked through my childhood trauma. I thought I was healed. But then when I had a huge trauma come back up, all of my childhood trauma, my fear of men, my fear of, people using substances, like all those things just blew up in my face. And I tried to kill myself.
Oh, wow, Brittany.
Of having all these skills, all these experiences, because I thought I was healed. I saw a therapist. I saw a hypnotherapist. I, was able to box it up until it became this huge waterfall of pain and hurt. And I sat down every day of my life and cried it out, worked it out, felt the wounds. And anytime my mind or body needs more support with healing the things I've gone through, I give it the time. And that's how I've advanced through my PTSD and, the suicidal thoughts that came from complex PTSD. Everything just became way too much when my husband left me. I had a brand new baby, a feeding tube. I never thought I was going to be alone. So when I became alone again, it just blew up in my face. And thank God and the universe and my skills and my Nana and Papa and the people around me kept me alive. My neighbors, I would sit at my neighbor's house for hours crying while my son was playing with her 10 kids, just so I could get closer and closer to be serving people, but most importantly, be healed and whole for myself in that moment, because it's an ongoing process, in my opinion, healing.
I want to play this one bit of confessional. You sent me this video, and it's a soundbite, and I believe it's one of those turning points you alluded to, your marriage and your family, and when the darkness hit. Let me play this for you now.
As soon as Taylor told me that he no longer wanted to be married and that he had been lying to me, that's when the PTSD and the darkness and the suicide started to come up for me. Never in my life did I feel so worthless or not loved.
So, Brittany, obviously they're a very vulnerable moment, and thank you for sharing that with us. How did you decide to turn that experience into now your vocation?
Oh, I think I made a decision when I was 12 years old that I was going to use everything I go through, good and bad, to experience life to the fullest and make a difference. And so when life got hard again and I felt like I was drowning, it took a little while, and it took my Nana and my Papa to show me who I was again and God, so that I didn't lose that grip on my purpose. I haven't ever talked about it publicly, so this is my very first time. So sorry.
Oh, no, I appreciate you sharing with us.
So, it just took time and lots of people loving me and lots of therapy and me finally realizing my worth again and realizing that I am more than my trauma, that I belong here, and that my job is to serve my community, because who knows it better than the person that overcame it and pulled herself out of the mud. It was an ugly process. Lots of screaming, lots of pain, lots of negative things because I was told I was worthless. I believed it because it was my best friend telling me. Of 17 years, I met the guy when I was 15. So to pull yourself out of that after losing everybody that I loved, my whole support system overnight was gone. I wrote a book about my family and what they did for me, and then they all just disappeared, thank God, because it gave me strength. It gave me wisdom. I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm a much happier, freer person because I get to be who God made me to be. It's been a really incredible process, from writing your book, hitting your high, hiring a surrogate, finally having a baby, and then everything falls apart into a billion pieces like my clients tell me. And I finally got to experience it. And every day it's still hard, but I choose to grab all the good I can and learn from all the hard stuff every single day. And I just call and have gratitude for my best friend, Deb and Randy, that became my son's Nana and Papa, because without them, and clients that called me and checked on me, no one would have known it. I just would have killed myself. Like, after I got the gun, after I put my hand through the wall with a brand new baby I waited my whole life for. If all those people and all the skills I had, and me being someone that is very strong faith that God is still real, and my belief system around taking your life, without all those beautiful foundational steps and all the people that cared enough, I wouldn't be here to take people in this beautiful office and walk them through the journey of life that's so beautiful, but it's also so painful.
Yeah, I mean, Brittany, you're walking through it right now, and I can see all of the feelings come up. This work that you're doing, and tell us about this book. I believe it's called Everything is a Choice. Tell us about this book, and I'm going to show some of the pictures in the video that you shared with me here. It's a bunch of labels on your body, or the labels that either we put on ourselves or other people put on us, right?
Yeah, and it's also a workshop. This is my original copy with all my little, it's a workshop. So you put what you're feeling in the now, or the labels, or what you've gone through on the front. And then when you finish the book, you put the words on the back of your body, and you walk away with this confidence and this faith. And it's just a really cool exercise to, one, fall in love with your body and be vulnerable, and two, know where you started and know where you ended. And I still do workshops in the public. I had a huge fundraiser at my house, and I let everybody write their words on my body. And that was surreal for me, because when people put like negative words that don't associate with me, I could feel their pain. I could feel that they are sick of being called, negative words. Like, I'm trying to think of a better word, but one of the ones that resonated with me was someone put slut. And when she put that on me, I was like, it felt so heavy, because that's what she walks around with every single day. And then on the back, she said she's beautiful and she's perfect. And I felt other people's healing through this cover, which was really to bring people into their own pain, their own hurt, how they feel, because we don't always have a mirror to see what's going on without a provider. And I wanted them to have the mirror, so they had that private place to work through their own cover, front and back. And when they finish the book, then they get to choose who they want to be, because it is a choice. Everything is a choice. The good and bad choices I've made have helped me be who I am today. So I'm grateful for this book. I have been writing my second book, but it's a little bit more difficult now that I have a 5-year-old.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're very busy. A certified hypnotherapist, you've obviously changed a lot of lives and been a very positive influence in people's healing and their own traumas. As a hypnotherapist, how can folks, if they're not familiar with the work that a hypnotherapist does versus a traditional therapist, who would benefit from hypnotherapy?
So usually I get the worst case scenarios in my practice, because they've tried everything else and they're looking for alternative therapy. So if you're coming in, typically people are pretty nervous about hypnotherapy and coaching, because it's not a traditional service that they've heard of, and it's not what you see on TV. That's what I tell people right away. It's all about healing. So it's a calm, relaxing state that you get into, so that you can focus on what you want to heal, what you want to accomplish. Like I hypnotized myself for months to be comfortable even taking a picture in a sports bra, and had to have this on my phone, the before picture, for a whole year to be comfortable. So with hypnosis, it's a lot of people think that I'm going to, make you quack like a duck. I can only make you quack like a duck if that's what you want to do. But most people come in with one subject: anxiety, weight loss, quitting smoking, trauma, PTSD, disorders. Like, there are so many things that hypnosis can support and guide you to the end result that you're looking for. Some people see me, their lives are just so stressful, and the only way they can take a small break from the day-to-day is finding that relaxing dark place for them, meaning like they literally want it relaxing and dark instead of going to the beach or the spa. And then they are able to recharge in that moment through hypnosis, or they recognize, I've not slowed down ever in my life. I have so much anxiety, but if I slow down and start breathing and practicing just the power of breath, people are able to accomplish so much, because they struggle just to slow down and breathe every day. So if you slow down for an hour to an hour and 90 minutes, that's a whole session. You feel restored, you feel relaxed, you feel like you're on top of the mountain, because you just heard and put a memory and placed it for yourself, meaning subconsciously you chose to make this suggestion something that you want to go with, which is, I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm capable. For me, with my mental health, this morning when I'm driving over, I'm capable. I've waited my whole life to talk to you. I'm here to serve God's people. I am worthy of anything that this universe has to give me. And those are the things that start to replay over and over in your head. And you go to pick up a piece of chocolate and you're like, I don't really want this chocolate. I want vegetables and fruit. And you take that suggestion and it becomes everything that you've ever wanted. And that's how hypnosis works, is it's the power of suggestion. It's just you finally have all the right combinations and tools to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish, because you get so relaxed and you set aside the day-to-day stuff and focus on that one thing, which could be writing a book. It could be overcoming anxiety. It could be gaining immense muscles and, changing your lifestyle. But hypnosis is just so cool, because if you accept the suggestion and it's something you deeply desire, it becomes your reality in moments and days and weeks. People will call me and be like, Brittany, I don't know why I'm eating healthy. I'm like, because I've been working with you for months to stop eating and binge eating.
Yeah.
Because it sometimes just takes a while for it to click.
Yeah,
just
it's like building new, synapses and connections. Brittany, Eric, appreciate you taking the time and joining me this early hour here from Arizona. If people wanted to seek you out, how can they reach you?
So I have a website. It's Bring Out You, BRINGOUT, the letter U.com. You are also welcome to find me on social media. My company is Bringing Out the Best in You, LLC. And if you would like to add me because you want to follow me personally, all my social media is Cuddlebug Brit, because when I became a mom, I realized I'm a cuddling little mama bear. So you can find me there, but my website can help you learn more about hypnotherapy and the benefits. And if you're looking for someone like me in your life to follow so that you just have that one person supporting you every day, you guys are welcome to follow me on my personal feed. I'd love to, have more people to follow too.
All right, very good. Brittany Eric joining us here talking about mental health awareness and sharing her own story and path to healing. It's an ongoing journey, but thank you so much for enlightening us on mental health, healing, and hope. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Brittany, take care. Thank you so much again. As we bring you back out here in the Live Impact studio in WCNC Plus, we are going to switch gears at 9:35 now on Friday morning on Live Impact News. And it looks like the Karen Reed retrial is in a sidebar.
They're bringing the jury in.
Okay.
So both
So it'll
sides
take a few-
spoke to the judge,
a
and
few
now
minutes?
they said about 5 minutes, and they'll have the jury in, and then the first witness will come in.
Okay, because I know the prosecution or the Commonwealth rested their case yesterday, and so now the defense is going to start up. So we're in week 6.
I also
of all
read
this.
that outside the courtroom yesterday, let's see here. The first defense witness is expected to be an accident reconstruction expert on their side.
Okay.
It's the first person that's supposed to hit the stand today for them. Expected to be. So
Okay.
we'll see if that actually happens.
All right, very good. In the meantime, let's get you caught up with what's happening in Washington. We have Alice Barr covering the latest now from the Trump administration, and this is on tariff talk. Here's Alice Barr on WCNC Plus.
President Trump heading to Pennsylvania today for a rally at U.S. Steel on the heels of a new reversal, allowing his sweeping tariffs to remain in effect for now after a federal appeals court temporarily paused a ruling by the Court of International Trade that blocked most of the president's tariffs because they said he'd exceeded his authority and using an emergency powers law and sidestepping input from Congress. President Trump slammed the ruling overnight, saying if it stands, it would completely destroy presidential power, and arguing that getting congressional approval for tariffs would dramatically slow the process as his administration negotiates trade deals with world leaders.
Very adamant that this is the right approach, and so, while we're ready for a backup plan that's never going to happen because this is going to work.
The White House does have other means of enacting tariffs without emergency powers, leaving business owners like Victor Schwartz, lead plaintiff in the trade case and founder of a small New York-based wine company, guessing what's coming next.
The tariffs are a cash flow killer, particularly impactful for a small business. This kind of uncertainty is terrible for business.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent weighing in overnight on the state of trade negotiations, saying some deals are close, while on the closely watched talks with China.
I would say that they are a bit stalled.
The White House promised to reach 90 deals in 90 days, leaving them until July 9th, with few announcements so far. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, if you heard, in the Charlotte area, the Sullenberger Aviation Museum has added an additional exhibit. This is a real special exhibit here, and it's called Aviation City. It starts tomorrow. They're going to open it tomorrow, rather, and it's set really within a restored aircraft hangar. So that's very cool for you aviation fans. Our crew was able to speak to the president of the museum, Stephen Saucier. This is what people can expect, okay? You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+.
So the museum's been open nearly a year now, and when we opened originally, we opened with the main gallery that has two thematic areas, Innovation Nation and Aviation Society, telling different stories. And now we're opening the historic hangar with our third thematic area called Aviation City. This tells the story of the Charlotte Douglas International Airport through time, a 100-year history, and its influence on the development of Charlotte.
Okay. And this particular hangar, is this an historic hangar?
It is. It was built in 1936, so it's it's on the historic registry, so it's an artifact in and of itself, and it's been renovated by the airport and by us to turn it into a gallery. So it's an artifact that gets to display artifacts and tell stories.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a work progress hangar?
It's right. That's correct.
History's on point. Of the project.
This was a little over $1.5 million to get this done on our behalf, yes.
And that's purely the museum, not museum and
Correct.
airport.
Yeah, the airport generously, you know, we have a great partnership with the airport, and the airport did the renovation of the shell and got it prepared for us to do our work to turn it into an experience.
How many pieces of aircraft should people expect?
Yeah, there are 7 aircraft in here. So we have the DC-3, which is an iconic aircraft, Piedmont Airlines, which tells the story of commercial aviation from the early 40s and for decades after that. We have the Stearman, the biplane that's over my right shoulder, which is a great iconic aircraft again from the late 20s, early 30s. You can just imagine the goggles and the scarf going back. And then behind you, we have a T-33 trainer, which was used by the Air National Guard to train pilots. We have converted this one into a flight simulator. So we have the 2 cockpits with flight simulator computers in them, so kids can climb into the cockpit and pretend like they're flying a plane.
So does it feel like you're taking off and landing?
It sure does, yes. And of course you can hear the aircraft landing and taking off from the airport as you're in this historic hangar. Yeah.
You're almost a year with the main facility, or
right.
The original facility. Bring us up to speed. How has it gone? How's attendance? How are things tracking compared to expectations?
Attendance is really strong. We're about to go over 100,000 visitors, which is great in our first year. We launched all kind of programs. We have our field trip program this summer. For the first time, we're doing summer camps. We've had student training. We've had our Flight Forward program, which has been working with West Charlotte High School to encourage kids to go into the aviation field. We see people here every day, hundreds of people on Saturdays, usually 400 or 500 people. Miracle on the Hudson movie has been really welcomed very well. So it's a joy sometimes just walking around, seeing the visitors. We'll have one school group coming in, and then we'll have retirees from a home going out. We appeal to a wide range of audiences because everybody has a wonder of flight.
Anything else that we should be looking for on the horizon?
Well, let me tell you about Saturday. This opens Saturday. It's our first time that we're opening this exhibit, Aviation City, opening it to the public. We'll open at 9 to 10 for members, so if you're not a member of the museum yet, get your membership, come early, have an exclusive exhibit experience, and then from 10 to the rest of the day at 4:30. We're open all day. We'll have food trucks. We'll have other companies and people tabling here. So it's a great festive day to enjoy this new Aviation City exhibit and to enjoy the whole museum.
And Stephen, I assume that this is part of the normal ticket price, or is it extra?
It is. No, it's part of the normal ticket price. We're not going up with that yet.
Okay. And do you want to, do you feel like you're complete now, or do you always have your eye on something?
We're a museum that thinks very entrepreneurially. We're always pushing the limit. But our exhibits are now open. We have the main gallery building. We have the historic hangar. We have our welcome building, the Dowd Foundation welcome building open. We have the CPI outdoor aircraft plaza that's fully open with all the aircraft. Now we're layering programs, offering outreach to schools, trying to find ways to get kids interested in aviation and aerospace and STEM generally. We're going to continue layering programs on that. Our mission is what we call inspire, educate, and elevate. So we're going to continue to find ways to excite kids about going into the field of aviation.
I have not looked back at the projection, but you mentioned you're over 100,000. Are you close, or
we are? We wanted to get between 110,000, 120,000 visitors in our first year. So we're just going to get over about 100,000 here really soon. We'll be looking at the numbers, but we came pretty close to our projections, and we're going to continue to find ways to be entrepreneurial, to generate the revenue for sustainability. That's one of the things we're committed to. We're also an event space, so we rent that out in the evenings with companies, corporations. We even had a wedding here recently. So we're finding ways to continue to engage the community, advance our mission, but also to be sustainable and make sure that we're being responsible with the resources in this community.
And financially, are you healthy? How would you?
We're doing fantastic.
Okay. I think you are in the latter stages of your tenure, correct?
I am. Yes, I have announced my retirement.
Can you bring us up to speed on the search and how soon something may happen?
We're into the second round of searches. It's going really well. We're impressed with the slate of candidates that we've seen so far, but it is early, and we're going to be very careful about that selection process. I'm staying through till at least August 1st. I want to make sure that this organization is left on good, solid footing, good financial footing, be part of the search process, and make sure that I'm helping the staff transition to the new leadership.
Remind me, how long have you been with the museum?
Just under 8 years.
Did you leave anything out?
Well, please come on Saturday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry about that. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about the naming of the gallery in honor of Mark Oken and others. How did that come about?
Yeah, so Mark and Fulfurious Capital Partners, Fulfurious Management Partners, they were very instrumental in helping us raise the money. Mark was instrumental in advancing our capital campaign to raise the resources to do this. We have named this gallery as the Navy Marine Corps Gallery in honor of all the military aviators that have kept us safe either in wartime or peacetime. So Mark was an aviator himself, so we really wanted to honor all that he has done to make this museum possible.
All right, so if you do go to Aviation City, enjoy that exhibit, and it should be a good one in the Charlotte area. What a great addition for the Sullenberger Aviation Museum. All right, we want to get you now to the Karen Reed retrial. It looks like things are starting back up. They have called in the jury and a witness now taking the stand for his testimony. It's going to be Matt DeSogra, as you look at Karen Reed there right now. He is also a crash reconstruction expert, but he is for the defense. This is the first day now that first witness for the defense as the prosecution rested their case yesterday. So this is day 24, week 6 of the Karen Reed retrial, as she is being tried for second-degree murder of her boyfriend, a Boston police officer, that happened at a house party back in 2022. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+.
And I testify. On top of that, in the director role, I oversee a group. It's not just me doing this kind of work. I have 3 other engineers that work with me, all specializing in EDRs. So I oversee that group and focus on kind of the day-to-day operations as well as the direction we're going. You know, with things like autonomous vehicles coming, the role of data is growing, so we're kind of looking to the future in a lot of those ways.
As a consulting engineer, you've indicated what your specialization is. Do you specialize in motor vehicle accident reconstruction as well as vehicle system analyses?
I began my career at Delta V doing traditional accident reconstruction in the broadest sense, and as I have progressed, I have sort of narrowed myself down and now specialize in that, but I still consider myself an expert in accident reconstruction because ultimately,
No, please finish.
Ultimately, anytime we're doing EDR, data analysis, it is in support of an accident reconstruction.
You talked about event data recorders. Do you also engage in the specialty of advanced data recovery methods? In other words, methods of pulling the data. It's one thing to have it sitting in a car. It's another thing to pull it out and make it useful, correct?
That's right. There are a lot of different ways data can be accessed, all the way from just plugging into a port on a working vehicle, all the way through when a vehicle is catastrophically damaged and even the modules themselves are damaged, accessing the data at the chip level. So no matter what condition a vehicle or the remnants of a vehicle are in, generally we can still get the data from that.
Do you have any specific knowledge about Toyota data?
I do.
Describe that for us.
Beyond Toyota being a common vehicle in general, so we run into that data quite frequently. Just this year, we published a paper specifically studying some of the behaviors of the additional data recorder that's in Toyota vehicles.
Does Toyota make another sub-brand, for lack of a better phrase?
Lexus, I believe you're.
So Lexus is a Toyota brand, right?
Correct.
Okay. What is infotainment? It's kind of a combination of a couple of words, information and entertainment. What is infotainment data as it relates to vehicles, modern vehicles?
So it's a generic term which more or less means the thing that's in the middle of the dashboard with the screen on it. A lot of manufacturers implement that a little bit differently, so they all look different, but it's a general term we use in the industry to describe that system.
And what about, I'm going to change gears a little bit, what about your experience with regard to GPS as it relates to vehicles on the road, on the common roadways of the country?
GPS is a pretty fundamental part of vehicle data as a whole at this point, and we run into it in a lot of different places. We see GPS data from infotainment systems, so we're analyzing that data. Most of that's GPS-based. I do a lot of heavy truck work, and almost every heavy truck has some kind of GPS system in it for the fleets to track them, so we're analyzing that as part of data. And then the last area would be when we conduct testing, any kind of research, we're generally going to put our own GPS systems on vehicles so we can study that data. So analyzing GPS is a regular part of my job.
GPS, global, I'm going by memory, global positioning satellites?
Global positioning system.
System, got it. GPS is a mechanism to figure out where on Earth a certain item might be, whether it's this pin or an 18-wheel tractor trailer, correct?
That's correct.
Is there any difference inherently in the GPS mechanism that's installed in an infotainment center in a Toyota Lexus, versus a heavy truck or a heavy vehicle that's on the road?
The core technology behind how it works is fundamentally the same.
What is instrumented testing as it relates to Toyotas and VCH testing and things of that nature? Can you explain that for the jurors?
Sure. What instrumented testing means is, let's say we want to study, let's say, how accurate some data is that comes out of one of these vehicles. So we need an independent source of that information. So what we'll do is we'll equip a vehicle with one of these GPS data acquisition systems. Basically, we can drive the vehicle around and we know exactly where it is, how fast it's going, all these parameters. We can do some maneuvers with the vehicle, then we can download the data that the vehicle stored, and now we can compare the two and say, okay, well, if we have really high confidence in our system, how accurate is the vehicle system? Because the reality is there's always some small errors in these vehicle systems, and in a lot of cases what's important is quantifying that error.
So you're obviously familiar with GPS systems in many different platforms.
That's correct.
Okay. How many cases have you been a part of in terms of investigating and or analyzing infotainment center or infotainment system data?
Infotainment specifically, probably around 30.
And are you also familiar with engaging in some sort of analysis that's referred to as clock alignment?
Yes.
What is clock alignment?
Clock alignment would mean that anytime we have a timestamp in any set of data, a singular clock value, there's a good likelihood that that's not 100% accurate. So clock alignment would mean finding an independent source of time to compare that to, preferably one that's more reliable, and then making the necessary adjustments so that time can be considered real time.
How many cases have you been involved in that deal with clock alignment specifically?
Thousands, over 1,000. That's a regular part of data analysis. Any data set that has a timestamp, it's normal. It's part of the analysis. It's really the first step is let's get that clock aligned. So it's something I'm doing regularly.
And how long have you worked for Delta V?
It'll be my 13-year anniversary next month, actually.
Okay. These things that you've just described that we've talked about for the last few minutes, these are all duties that you perform within the rubric of your employment as the director of engineering at Delta V, correct?
Correct.
Now let's shift gears real quick and talk about your education, training, and background that qualifies you to perform these duties that you just talked about. Go ahead. The road is open and it's yours.
Certainly. So I began my academic career. I got an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I then went on and got a master's degree also in mechanical engineering from the same school. And then when I came out of school, I immediately started working for Delta V, Forensic Engineering. In order to get a professional engineer license, I then needed to acquire 4 additional years of work directly under the supervision of another licensed engineer. So then I completed that phase of work. And then in order to maintain my license, I have to complete continuing education every year in the field that I practice.
So you got both a Bachelor of Science, correct?
Correct, Bachelor of Science.
Did you mention the year that you got your Bachelor of Science?
2011.
And you have a Master's?
Correct.
In engineering?
That is correct.
And when did you secure that degree?
2013.
You just mentioned engaging in continuing education. What is continuing education in terms of the engineering field or the reconstruction field in your world?
So in the state that I'm licensed, in North Carolina, they define that really as any activity you're participating in that's keeping you abreast with the field, keeping you up to date with what's going on. So taking formal classes counts for continuing education, but also some of the other work that I do, like publishing research in peer-reviewed journals, also counts as continuing education.
Do you regularly attend symposiums or symposia, I guess is the right
yes.
word? Have you attended symposia related to EDR research and training?
Yes.
How about advanced applications of heavy vehicle EDR data?
Correct, yeah. I attend, there's a couple of regular conferences in our industry specifically tailored to EDRs as a whole for passenger vehicles and heavy trucks. I'm a regular attendee of those. I'm also a regular speaker at most of those. And I'm usually presenting some of the new research that we have for that year.
So not only do you attend, you actually teach?
Correct.
Have you attended data, have you attended events that deal with data, event data recording systems and event data recording system extraction?
Yes.
What about vehicle crash reconstruction?
Yes.
What about electronic control module imaging?
Yes.
What about electronic control model analysis?
Yes.
Applying automotive EDR data to traffic reconstruction?
Yes.
These are samples of the type of continuing education that you routinely engage in, correct?
All that's accurate.
You talked about additional licenses and professional registrations. You're a licensed professional engineer, correct?
That's correct.
In North Carolina?
Correct.
You're also a certified IPC specialist?
Yes.
What is an IPC specialist?
IPC is an organization that offers certifications in basically soldering. I could say it in more technical ways, but it boils down to soldering. So as it relates to what I do, when we are recovering data from damaged EDRs at the chip level, that involves some really precise soldering work. And so IPC offers courses in how to do that at basically the highest level, and then they offer certifications for that.
Are you a member of the Society of Automotive Engineers?
I am, active member.
When you say an active member, is that a nationally recognized society for academic engineers?
Yes.
The teaching roles that you've held within organizations, have you been an instructor concerning accessing and interpreting heavy vehicle data event recorders?
I am. I am currently an instructor of that course, which is offered through the Society of Automotive Engineers.
As a matter of fact, next week, are you going someplace to teach?
I am. I will be in Wisconsin next week teaching that very course.
Are you a member of any subcommittees within that organization, within the organization of the Society for Automotive Engineers?
I am. I am a voting member in the J2728 subcommittee, which is a subcommittee for event data recorders on trucks and buses.
Are you also a member of the National Association of Professional Reconstruction Specialists?
I am.
Does that require a certain level of education?
It does, and it requires, as far as I know when I joined, sort of proof that you are active within the field of accident reconstruction.
That was my next question. It requires you to stay current on accident reconstruction issues, correct?
Correct.
Have you also authored peer-reviewed articles on within your field and
yes.
subfield? Is it fair to say that you've authored or co-authored a number of peer-reviewed papers in the field of accident reconstruction specifically, as well as EDR data retrieval?
That's correct.
Have any of your peer-reviewed articles that you've either authored or co-authored specifically focused on Toyota vehicles?
Yes.
Can you name one, please?
Specifically, this year, published a paper where we studied the effects of collision-induced power loss on the way data is recorded in Toyota systems. And that would include Lexus systems. Fundamentally, they're the same components. It's just a different brand on top.
In January 2025, did you co-author a publication entitled Simulation of Vehicle Speed Sensor Data for Use in Heavy Vehicle Event Data Recording Testing?
Mr. Jackson, you're going to have to repeat that.
Of course. Sorry. In January 2025, did you co-author a publication?
You've been watching the Karen Reed retrial with a new witness on the witness stand there out of Dedham, Massachusetts. We bring you back out here in the Live Impact studio at 10 o'clock straight up Friday morning, and you're watching WCNC Plus. We appreciate you downloading the app. All right, we want to talk to our investigative reporter, Nate Morabito, because if you are considering buying a brand new house, and we are in the season of buying and selling homes, spring and summer, if you buy a house in a new neighborhood or a neighborhood under construction, perhaps, you're going to want to watch this investigation tonight because he's going to reveal how homeowners in multiple neighborhoods across the Charlotte area have been living next to unfinished or unsafe construction, from my understanding, right, Nate? And really for about a year, despite paying HOA dues.
Yeah.
So that if I lived in one of those neighborhoods, that would not be really good news for me. How'd you discover this?
Well, you'd
first
be
of all,
unhappy about that for sure. I mean,
Totally.
I had somebody reach out to me for several months. We've been talking about the situation. It's just really frustrated about the fact that you buy a brand new home, you move in, you pay an initial HOA fee, and then the rest of the homes in the neighborhood, several of them at least, I mean, you're looking out your front porch at a bunch of homes that have no siding. There's roofs that are being held up by like a 2x4 roof, like an overhang of a porch. There's a toilet sitting in a garage that's open all the time. I mean, it's just like stuff that you don't expect when you're buying a home in a new neighborhood. And my first home we bought was in a new neighborhood. It was a new home. This is many years ago, and I never thought that I should be extra cautious when I do something like this. But the truth is, what we found in our reporting over several months is that unlike buying a home in an existing neighborhood, if you are buying a home in a neighborhood that's under construction, you absolutely have to do more work. Now, most of the time it's going to be fine, right?
Right.
There isn't an issue. But an attorney told us there is a risk and you must essentially acknowledge that risk and, as he says, kick the tires a bit more. We'll hear from him in a minute, but I do want to just point out, in this case, our story's going to air tonight at 6 on WCNC. A couple companies that are connected built or started building a bunch of homes, and from what we've been told by government sources, they kind of came into some financial trouble, some financial mismanagement, and had to stop. Our investigations found these companies have also owed property taxes in Iredell County, and they have unfinished homes in Rowan County and Iredell County, and multiple places in those counties as well. And there's some lawsuits against these companies as well. The companies are Helmsman Homes and Nest Homes. Lawsuits from contractors who say combined they're owed something like $1.7 million. They did the work, they didn't get their money. So the most frustrating thing for these homeowners is that they were kind of blindsided by this. They were never under the assumption that this business may essentially fold. And then when it did, they really had no recourse. And that's why this attorney, James Galvin, he's here in Charlotte, he specializes in real estate, says new home buyers have to consider doing extra work. Let's take a listen.
Ask the seller, I need to see the finances. The other thing to ask for is, again, people are not going to advertise whether there's a lot of rancor in their neighborhood. There already may be many homeowners in disputes with the association and the developer, and you're not getting that advertised. So what I recommend owners to do is to, from the person that's selling you the house, say, I need to see the HOA meeting minutes the last 12 months. And if the meeting minutes say, hey, every month there's 5 homeowners here complaining about landscaping services not happening, no money, to do this, or it could be the association or the developers being significantly authoritarian and controlling over things. The minutes can tell you if there are problems. So getting your hands on the minutes, getting your hands on the budgets and the profit and loss statements just means the financials, like how much money does this HOA have in the bank. You can hire people that know about HOAs, lawyers or management company to say, hey, will you, it's worth, you pay a few $100s for an inspector, pay a few $100s for an inspection of this company that you're going to be a member of. Because that's, again, people don't legally necessarily fully understand. Like you're buying into an HOA, you're becoming a member of a nonprofit corporation.
And so, Nate, what was the most surprising thing in doing this story for you?
Well, I mean, I thought at first this was a story about a couple of companies that folded and left homeowners with little recourse,
Right.
which is part of the story. But the most surprising thing is that this doesn't happen infrequently. It's not uncommon.
Ooh.
It's common enough that you need to know, especially with an uncertain economy, the likelihood for this kind of thing increases, according to Galvin, the attorney. And so the biggest surprise to me was that, as you heard from him, people need to be aware of this, and they need to put extra work in. They need to ask the seller, can you give me this information? And I didn't realize that when a developer's building a community, if they haven't finished all the homes, the neighbors don't have the HOA yet. The developer essentially has the HOA, and they're supposed to be meeting, they're supposed to have an HOA board, and they're supposed to have minutes, and those minutes can be revealing. And I think that's the message. If you can get that information, you should try and do that before you buy a house in a new neighborhood. No one's saying don't buy a house in a new neighborhood.
Right.
They're just saying you got to put extra work in just to protect yourself. That's what's key.
And that information, they should be forthcoming, that developer or what have you. It's a new neighborhood.
Well, HOAs are nonprofits, like you heard them too. I mean, there is a certain, in North Carolina, you have to hand over some records in that.
right.
And also, if they're a company, maybe it's a publicly traded company, maybe you'll feel more comfortable buying a home from a developer that's owned by a company that's publicly traded, because you can get some more insights. But I'm sure there are plenty that aren't publicly traded that do great work too and complete the homes as expected. You just got to be prepared for that. That's the real critical part.
Really, having covered a number of HOA stories for Where's the Money here at WCNC Charlotte. Oh,
You were the HOA reporter there
for a while.
6
Yeah,
months,
that was
I feel
kind
like.
of my beat. And it is, I just feel for the pain that homeowners go through. You trust that your HOA is going to take care of you. Not always the case. And you got to do your due diligence. All right, story airs again when?
It airs tonight at 6, and we interviewed this guy. He's a veteran Marine, and he's just in another community in Statesville. You feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
This is not what he expected his retirement would be, and you're just going to want to hear from him, because I think anybody could really understand the position he and other people are in because of this.
Oh, yeah. Not cool. Not cool. All right. Well, thank you, Nate, for coming in and previewing your story for tonight on WCNC Charlotte, which will be here on Live Impact News as well on WCNC Plus. We thank you for coming in.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, appreciate you. Back out here now at 10:07. The other big story, of course, today is weather. And whether or not you need to bring the umbrella today, it is a definite yes. Take a look at this Live Impact News, a live shot of uptown Charlotte. So the clouds, they've just been here anyway for the week. They're kind of settling in. We want to scooch that out. It looks like
that's Boone.
That's Boone now.
And it was pretty a little while ago.
Yep.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun. He said they were coming. Here they are.
Yep.
Chris Mulcahy in the Live Impact studio once again. So just past the 10 o'clock hour this morning, Chris, and on track for a weather alert afternoon?
Yeah, we're still looking at it, and we're actually seeing signs of some severe thunderstorm warnings. There was a tornado warning around Blunt, Tennessee. I think that's how they pronounce it. I'm not familiar with the area. But we did see a few tornado warnings associated with this. We're now looking at one that's over in Tennessee. So just really showing that the energy is high enough over there, and we haven't even really reached the peak heating. And we earlier had mentioned right here at the top of our newscast about 9 o'clock that we were upgraded to a high threat. But I really just want to hammer home, I really don't think much has changed from what we've been saying all of yesterday and all of today. Sometimes the Storm Prediction Center is almost just kind of over-confirming, hey, this is a better chance. No, I think it's the same chance. The Storm Prediction Center kind of has a mind of their own. So just because there's a red does not mean any difference from the words that we've been saying for me even an hour ago to 3 hours ago to 24 hours ago. We have a chance for bowing line segments. It's a bow echo. We talked about it in detail yesterday. That's we could have strong winds over 60 miles per hour. They can have downbursts to 60 to 70. That's not out of the question, the realm of possibility. Isolated large hail, but then also the spin up of a tornado. I don't think that that's really changed too much. So I just want people to know that just because the colors changed a little bit, not much has really changed outside of that. I think that they're just kind of doubling down saying that, hey, damaging wind threat is looking a little bit higher. But in my opinion, I think it's very similar. I've been reading some other reports trying to see different jargons. I'm trying to kind of read through it at the same time while paraphrasing it, because me reading latest high-res guidance suggests a predominantly linear mode. You don't need to hear about that. Yeah. The words in here, sometimes I feel like they try to overcomplicate it. It was just like they're almost weather flexing. Yeah, I know. It's just like, oh, okay, guys. So essentially what I'm really reading here is the tornado threat that we're really going to see is primarily from those Boeing segments, as I mentioned, the little shrimps, as Carlene has now named them. Yeah. The supercell environment, I think, is dying out, so I think that's also going to bring down our hail threat. But hail's really a tricky and fickle creature. If you get an isolated storm, I think you're going to see that possibility. All right, so let's roll around. I just kind of wanted to clear through a few things to kind of see where things were going, because right now I'm actively sifting through the information. Even my man Jake from the National Weather Service was saying they were keeping an eye on the storms over in Tennessee, and it was canceled just because the rotation was fairly weak. So that's also really showing that in general, this storm system, if there is going to be a tornado, it's going to be very short-lived. And hey, bring it back on camera. I really want to make a point here. The reason why I'm saying this, and this is not to discredit anything, but whenever you have an environment like this, and there's a chance for a strong thunderstorm, and there's a chance for a spin-up tornado, most of the time, I think by the time you have a tornado warning, it might have already happened, it's already happening, and it's the 15 to 30 minutes that it's already kind of ascended. These are such a quick-moving event that it's sometimes those little kinks along the line, they only are on the ground for a couple of minutes, and then you have quick damage for up to, say, 2 to 5 minutes. So I just want you to know, now, a lot of times, they will be on the ground for a while. We've seen that many times, but there's a lot of times that Brad and I have been tracking these, that you have those rain-wrapped tornadoes you don't see too much, and yeah, you have a threat for wind gusts up to to 60 miles per hour in a widespread range, but locally you could have winds up to 100 miles per hour from some of these systems. So that's why I just want everyone during this window of opportunity, we call it about noon to 6 today, that's going to be a possibility. Once the main line rolls through, chance for gusty winds, spin up tornado with even stronger localized winds, and then the hail threat I think is almost moving to number 3 at this point. I just really wanted to make that point, eye contact with you, that you just got to take it like anything can happen.
Right.
I think so many people are just waiting for the tornado warning. There's times that sometimes it's already happened, and they're doing that because National Weather Service picked up on it, because some of those radar signatures take 5 minutes to go through. That's also why it's an advantage to be here on WCNC Plus, because Brad and Brittany are going to be live. And the amount of times that I've been with Brad, most times I'm in morning, so I'm not there for the action, but a lot of times I've been with Brad, we're tracking something that's like, this looks like it's going to happen. Brad has physically called it. I physically called it 5 to 10 minutes before it even touches down, and then it starts to descend once the tornado warning is there. So that's why I think it's really an advantage for you to stay here on WCNC Plus, maybe in the studio, maybe here in the live Impact studio, that we're going to keep you ahead of the storm. Okay, so that's my little spiel. Now let's get back to the forecast and in general, if I can find the window. I have too many windows open up right now. I can't treat. Okay, here we go. So the main thing we were talking about, chance for hail, we're still going to keep that in the moderate threat, but let's go through the newest high resolution, as they were saying, aka Futurecast, what it's looking like. Okay, so this newest one right here, let's see if there's any new changes. Actually, it looks a little bit weaker. That's actually some good news. So I think it really shows that around the Morganton area, Taylorsville, we were seeing more of a clear defined line when we went through. It's really around 2 o'clock that it starts to form a little bit better. So our window of opportunity about 2 to 4 still looks to be spot on. Winds will be out of the southwest. Still think we have a decent shear environment at this point. That's going to be that. 3 o'clock, look at how fast that moved through. Yeah, so this is moving even faster. So we were mentioning this earlier. I think the line's moving at about 45 miles per hour. I think that there could be some severe thunderstorm warnings in the central part of the state that are saying up to 55 to 60 miles per hour for the forward movement. And yeah, it still looks like the strongest storms. Look at 6 o'clock in the central part of the state. This is good news for us, actually. I'm not saying that we're not going to see it. So still it's that 2 to 4 across the Charlotte area, but it's flying at this point. I think if you live southeast of Charlotte, so Monroe, Wadesboro, Lancaster, you're in line right now for the strongest storms. I think it's actively, as you can see here, watch, 2, 3 o'clock. So it's really the 2 o'clock hour that we're kind of pinpointing, I think, the worst of it. So I think it's strengthening and starting to hit its stride over Charlotte. So that's not saying that you're not going to see anything. So it's at this point, really, I think 2 o'clock is where things really open up. But man, by like 6, 7 o'clock, I think that you're storm free. So yeah, everything's pretty much lined up. I just kind of wanted to process that through for you. Decent evening, still going to be a little bit on the breezy side. So sorry about this. I'm kind of dissecting with this. I was just in a meeting to see where things go. Yeah, wind shear right there. This is also another good thing. Once you get to 7 o'clock, that disappears. All you have to know is red bad, gray good.
We like gray.
Yes. 5 o'clock. Yeah, this is also another concern because we've been talking about the tornado potential. I still think it's starting around Salisbury over to Greensboro, and then we will swing this a little further east that still has that highest tornado threat. As you see those yellows starting to pop up, where our even though we're under the red, the tornado threat has not changed. Any of us in the yellow still have a chance for that spin-up tornado. So plain and simple, we're still going to keep our weather alert window. Thank you for kind of going through my meteorology thought process, but pretty much we're confirming it. I think the best news is for the mountains and the foothills, you're still going to have developing thunderstorms, but it's less likely going to be a big severe. You're still going to have a chance. I'm not discrediting that, but it looks a lot better than it did a couple hours ago. So we're still opening it up at noon, so just less than 2 hours from now. Can we bring up Hickory? What does Hickory look like? I'm just kind of curious. No problem.
Right.
Yeah, we just roll. We roll in stride here.
Yeah, but yeah, appreciate the process behind the madness.
Yeah, well, and that's also the other deal. Let me see. Yeah, you can see the clouds that are starting to increase. So what you were seeing there, we saw perfect blue sky earlier. It was gorgeous. As we learned our clouds earlier, you're actually looking up above. Those are cirrocumulus clouds. So that's a thicker deck. Sometimes they can look like a mackerel sky. You also have altocumulus. So when you have the mid and the high level clouds, that's showing the oncoming of a frontal system. So what's next we're going to see, and you actually see it to the west here. Now that blue sky is going to turn into complete white to a gray, and you can see a little bit of the darkness to the left of your screen. That's physically going to be the onset of rain. So we're going to start to see where we had the sunshine, a development of the line of thunderstorms. So if we direct ourselves back over to our Doppler radar, you can see it right here. Even though it's still far from Hickory, we're still picking up on the moisture because you don't see the rain right away. Sometimes the moisture can kind of slant miles to the east. So Hickory, let's see how fast this is moving. This is kind of like a severe weather cut-in where we're just kind of combing through the data. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, so right now I'm moving at 30 miles per hour. So here we can track when it's going to be in Hickory, just for example. So this bringing up this tool, we have 30 miles per hour. Actually, it'll be 35 by the time it gets there. So general showers pushing its way in this general area. Yeah, so we can call Hickory at about 11:14, so about an hour away, and that line is going to intensify. So I think likely Hickory, this is exceeding expectations, so this is also signs that, oh, wow, this is kind of ahead of schedule. So I kind of want Charlotte to be on guard for that earlier window. I would not be surprised if the greater Charlotte area, so that includes the 321 corridor, even by 1 o'clock could see some signs of rain and some thunderstorms. The faster this moves, the better for us. Worse for the central parts of the state, but you want this to move fast. You don't want this to arrive during the 5 o'clock hour, so we are trending in a better direction overall. So let's get the timing one more time. This is a behind-the-scenes look again. This model likely is probably going to be a little bit more what we were seeing earlier. Now, still about 2 o'clock. 2 to 3 o'clock for Charlotte. By about 3 to 4, I think we're good. You could have a leftover shower. So, yeah, this thing might be out of here by 5, y'all.
Afternoon, evening drive home will be okay.
Yeah, damp roads, I think. There could be a leftover shower behind it, but nothing severe. So I think we might be all clear from severe as early as 4 o'clock for Charlotte, but 5 o'clock for most of the area at this point.
All right, Chris Mulcahy in the Live Impact Studio on WCNC Plus. Like you said, always good to have the app handy. Your TV, your Roku, your Fire, your Apple, and your mobile. Thanks for coming in once again.
No problem. And I just want to interrupt. I appreciate you say mobile because I do that as well. So good job. I also say vase with pinkies up to be fancy.
Vase, I know.
Yeah, I love your vase. You have that.
Yes, so I'm getting ready for my trip to Europe, so bring your mobile. Thank you, Chris.
Of course.
All right. It looks like Governor Stein is now starting his press conference from the DMV in Raleigh, talking about issues. Let's go ahead and listen in there live now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
You didn't take this job. Do you want this job? And he was unrelenting. He said, this is something that we can do better. And I am prepared to do my part to help us address it. So I thank him for hitting the ground running. As he said, he's been visiting DMV offices and talking with customers and employees alike all across the state. He's working on a plan that will help us to improve DMV. It's not that complicated. It's about process improvements at our locations so we can move customers through more efficiently. It's about a better website so that more people can take advantage of more services online so they don't have to come into the locations in the first place. And finally, it's about having a fully staffed, focused workforce. That's why I have requested that the General Assembly give us 85 more positions for the DMV across the state. This state is the third fastest growing state in the country. We've added more people since the last census than any other state other than Texas or Florida. Every one of those new adult residents need a new driver's license. So they are adding to the lines that exist from existing North Carolinians, but we have not kept pace with the number of workstations that are staffed at our DMVs across North Carolina. We're finding ways to get more people through our offices this summer, simplifying the website and raising pay for examiners, as Paul said. I want to thank you for taking on the task, Paul. Secretary Hopkins and I will do everything we can to support you and your great colleagues at the DMV as you do this important and urgent work. We're not alone in our commitment to support the DMV. I want to thank the North Carolina State House for including these 85 positions that we've requested in its budget, and we are hopeful that the Senate will concur. Additionally, I want to thank Auditor Dave Bullock. He shares our desire to make sure that the DMV works for the people of North Carolina. As he has said, the DMV is not political. It's about service. It's about service to the people of North Carolina. I look forward to working with him as we eliminate inefficiencies, modernize systems, and get this agency back on track. Hundreds of thousands of North Carolinians visit a DMV office each year. They deserve to be able to take care of their business efficiently and get back to whatever it is they want to do with their day. That's why we are committed to tackling this problem head on so that the DMV serves the people of North Carolina at the level that they deserve. At this point, be happy to take questions and you can address them to any of us.
Governor, I know that the commissioner said it's not going to change today. What is the timeline for when you expect to see change, and what are the benchmarks that you want to see?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. Things like bringing on new examiners. We have to get the legislature to agree with that. And then once they give us the authorization to hire these 85 people, we have to then hire the people. Then we have to train the people. So it could be months before those new positions are filled and they're actually helping us to reduce throughput. He's already done work on the website, so that's going to help us so that fewer people have frustrating experiences when they actually come to a location, because they know whether they need to be there or not, and they know what papers they need to bring when they do so. Every time somebody comes with the right documentation, speeds it up for everyone. Because if you come, you wait 2 hours, you get to an examiner only to find out that you don't have the right paper, you then have to repeat it another day. That adds another body to a line on another day when we could have ended that experience at that first visit. So we want to make sure that people have the right information. Paul, do you have other comments?
Yeah, so, we need a whole system overhaul. So long picture, we need a strategic plan and all those things, but we're not waiting for any of that to happen. We're waiting on systems to respond to us right now so we can make what we know based on our pilots is a major change that will immediately help throughput in the organization. We have things, we're going to make changes every week as we move through and make progress, and what we monitor is wait times. Right now, I can't build a great customer service organization, but I can increase throughput. Then on the back end, once we've cleared out all the folks that have been waiting and trying to get appointments and everything else over the time, then we can improve our customer service as well when we have normal amount of people trying to meet our services.
And Commissioner, you are obviously brand new. Welcome, first of all, and you inherited all of these problems. Can you talk a little bit about how we got here, and then in your first few weeks, like actual tangible things that we can tell the viewers that, like, if you are going to the DMV next week, this is a change you're going to see?
So how I got here, is that what was that the first part of it?
Like how we got here.
How we got here. We've always talked about how many people that we have that are out there. I think that really my focus has been how we move forward, assessing where we are today and how we move forward. It really is not pertinent to me unless there are lessons learned how we got here. And really, we know we have a very clear path of what we need to do as far as getting the people in, getting them trained, and getting them out to the floor, and bring in anybody who's willing to work with us. Like I stole interns from DOT that were coming in to work here this summer, and we pulled them over, and we're going to train them and put them at the front line. So really, our focus is about moving forward. And I apologize. What was the second part of your question?
In the first few weeks that you've been here, what are some things that we can tell our viewers that if you're coming to the DMV next week, the week after that, some tangible changes that they're going to see?
Yeah, so please go to our website and look at it now. That our first banner is, do you need a real ID? So if you don't need to be here, don't come right now. Let us get some of this through. If you have a passport, or if you're not going to fly, or if you don't need to be in a federal building, then you don't need it today. And so it's okay. We'll get you taken care of. And so first of all, please go to our website. Some of the things that you're going to see is some process changes around basically it's throughput of how we get people moving through. We still have appointments, but we're going to change the way that they're processed. Something else that we're doing is we're changing how we do our training for road tests. Road tests take a lot of time. They take somebody off of the processing floor and take it out there. We're changing that process so that we get people trained quickly, so even as we get the new folks, we get them there even faster. So it's across the board. We're looking at every single choke point that we have, from our scanners that take a long time, and you multiply that out by the number of documents that they hit per person, per examiner across the entire state. That slows everything down. So you're going to see a lot of different changes as we come through.
For the governor, when was the last time you visited the DMV, and what was that experience like?
It was a couple years ago with my daughter getting her driver's license, and we had to go to Henderson. So we drove an hour to get the driver's license, and we were the last appointment of the day. Fortunately, it was not raining on us that day. So look, I know that this is real, that this is a real challenge that parents deal with, is a real challenge that any driving adult deals with. And we have got to do better, and we commit to doing better.
For the commissioner, I know there's been a surge with Real ID. Can you just say how many people currently have one and how many don't?
So in North Carolina, we're around 52% as far as how many have actually gotten them to this point. And I want to reiterate, not everybody needs one. If you're not going to fly, and you're not going to have to go into a federal building, you do not need one today. Your ID works great. Or if you have a passport, you can just show your passport to fly or go into the federal building. So, but we're about 52% on that, which is actually not bad as far as the state numbers are concerned.
Commissioner, you talk about trying to empower employees like Ms. Williams here. I mean, what ways are you going to empower them so it's not just a friendly face, but I think ultimately people want to see efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously our systems is a big problem. If you walk around and look at what they look at, it's still that old black screen with the green lettering, right? Which is an old legacy issue. And then that system, they built macros, which is basically shortcuts because they were doing the repeated things, and they built those over and over. And then they layered over, making it so that it could talk with another system. And then they layered over something else because they could go online. And then they added another system in order to deal with a ticket. All of that has created a big mess that will take a lot of time to do. So that's one project. It's going to take us years, quite frankly, to get that, probably 3 to 4 years. That's one thing. The scanners. I walked in and I said, how can we help you? What can we do better? And they said, these scanners are really slow. I said, all right, let's take a look at that. And so we looked at it, and they are really slow. We just looked at another states the other day where it's much faster, it was much better for the documents, it ran quickly, loaded up much faster. I mean, again, we have 500 or so folks out there in the field, times every time they do a document, times every time they do multiple documents, the uploads. That's hours, that's days of people moving through our system. So those are a lot of the things. They tell us what they need, and then I respond to make sure that they get that.
We have time for one last question, and I saw your hand raised.
How many people are you guys seeing daily, like coming in, actually getting IDs, doing everything that they need to get done, and how long is it going to take you guys also to fix that backlog that you do have?
Yeah, so it's hard for us to exactly gauge how many people are out there because of the nature of the system. Because they come and then they leave. We can know how many are approaching us. We start every morning with 3,900 people in line. We get that report and we track that. We have about 2,000 appointments that are also out there. So we start with 5,900 of back people ready to roll for us, and then we have all the people that show up in line. It is a serious backlog. It's also higher in the summer because of all the kids that are out of school and want to come in and do their exams or move through the progressive. So and I have to circle back around with the exact numbers for per day capacity.
You can reach out to our gov office and we'll circle back. Thank you, everybody.
Can we get the ladies to spell their names so we get it correct?
I will get that for you right after. I just got to make sure they're out. They have a conflict and are already over time. So I will make sure that you get the correct spellings for everybody's names. Thank you, everybody. We do appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you to all of our speakers.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Good job. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You are watching live right now. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein wrapping up a press conference along with the North Carolina Transportation Commissioner from a DMV in Raleigh, answering questions from the media, promising major changes that will hopefully get some of our systems to be less antiquated. It always seems to be a thing with any DMV in any state, doesn't it, Carlene? I mean, we were just talking offline. You have some challenges coming up trying to get things done.
Get things done, and I'm not looking forward to it.
No one likes to go to the DMV or have to deal with renewal issues or even changing
Especially, it seems just like in our state, and like it just seems like it's a uphill battle.
I know. I had a, oh my goodness. When I had to take care of things a few years ago, it was quite the ordeal. So at least, changes are a-coming. That's what we're being told. Mm-hmm. They're on the way. So hopefully you can get your situation resolved.
Hopefully.
One of these days.
I might not be here. I might have to take the whole day.
See, that's the thing of it. You don't want to take a day off
to
go to the DMV.
Day off, but like, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
So I apologize if y'all don't see me on Live Impact News one day, and I'm probably at the DMV.
We'll know what is happening. All right, from DMV to DIY. We talked about this weather this weekend. Chris talking about if you need to do things outdoors, perhaps mow the lawn, stuff outside. Saturday might be a little bit better than Sunday in the Charlotte metro area. June starts on the 1st. That's on Sunday. And we are celebrating National Homeownership Month. So if you are a homeowner, if you care about your property, you want to tackle some of those weekend warrior projects, been putting it off, there are some critical mistakes that people end up paying a lot more money down the line. So, and part of that is having the proper insurance coverage. So we want to bring in Courtney Klosterman. She is from Hippo Home Insurance, Courtney, and a bit of a home insights expert. So I want to start with the big picture. Thank you, first of all, for joining us here on the Zoomy Zoom.
Thanks so much for having me.
Courtney, what are you seeing as the most commonly costly home improvement mistakes that homeowners are making right now?
Yes. Well, North Carolina homeowners are always updating and improving their homes, whether it's to boost curb appeal or to prepare for that next storm season, which I will say June 1st is the beginning of hurricane season. So good to prepare early. But renovations, as you said, mistakes can be costly and they can come quickly. So when it comes to what to avoid, as you said, first, don't skip reviewing your homeowner's insurance. Some upgrades to your home, like doing a kitchen remodel or adding square footage to your home, may affect your insurance coverage. So if your policy doesn't reflect those changes that you're making, you might not be fully protected. So second, be realistic about your project scope. And you mentioned DIY projects. These have grown significantly in popularity and have been known to save money. But taking on more than you're able to do can actually add excess costs or complexity that may lead to delays, stress, or overspending.
So then what we're pulling up one of the graphics here, the difficulty level in being renovation ready. What are we talking about here, Courtney?
So it's really important when you're renovation ready to do all of the upfront work first. And that's one thing you can be really thinking about is if you're going to do some substantial work on your home, don't forget about permits. So if you're making big changes, think about setting up your project appropriately. You might need permits, you might need professional support, especially if you're going to go into things like plumbing or electrical, which can have larger implications if done incorrectly. It's really important to think about planning ahead, one, for your own timeline, and also to be able to stay on budget.
Oh, wow. How do you know, and the scope of work, how do you know what kind of work you're going to be getting yourself into before you start something and realize that you're way over your head?
Well, it's really easy to, think about wanting to build your whole scope of projects this year and tackle all of them. But first, take a step back and think about what are your most priority projects? What can really help protect your home and preserve its integrity, especially as we think about more frequent and severe weather events that have been happening to many homeowners across the country. So one thing to think about is if you're looking to take on a home project, break that project into smaller tasks. Think about the parts that you're comfortable with and where you might want to call in a professional to do some of that tricky stuff. You don't need to take on everything yourself, but you can think about some of those small areas that you may be able to pick up in the project that can help you save money and time, and also help you learn a bit more about how to care for your home.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like easy enough. I've painted a number of walls and fixing those little easy fixes, light fixtures. So that's easy enough. But yes, structural change, that could be a real challenge. And we see these home workshops on the weekend, but they might be a little bit more than you can chew, right?
Exactly. So if you're thinking about taking on home projects, especially a DIY home project, something that at Hippo we recommend is we really encourage our homeowners to take charge, but really do so safely. So start by asking yourself, do I feel confident that I know how to do this project and all of the steps involved? If no, then think about which project steps you are comfortable with and when to bring in a professional for help. And second, do you have the right tools? And do you know how to use those tools? If the answer is no, you may want to think about either doing a little extra research or potentially bringing on some support to get the work done.
And then when it comes to looking at your insurance, that's one of the last things and one of the things that we avoid doing. But what should we look for when we review our insurance policies before starting some of these bigger projects, Courtney?
Well, your home insurance policy covers your home's current structure. So everything that was set up in your home when your policy was, fulfilled. So it's really important to think about any significant changes and how that might actually impact your coverage. It's really important to note that certain renovations may also increase your home's value. Thinking about changing the structure of your kitchen or adding some additional space to your living room and kind of just upgrading the look and feel. The best thing you can really do is to call your insurance company and just let them know any renovations you're completing so that you can help avoid any gaps in coverage if something were to go wrong. It's really important to think about having a proactive mindset as a homeowner. Homeownership can be quite costly, and as you said, this is National Homeownership Month. Do your best to really stay in control of homeownership this year. That starts with getting familiar with how your home operates, the structural integrity of the home, and how your critical systems like your heating, your cooling, your electrical systems, how these work. And if you're not completely sure, do a little bit of research, spend some time getting to know your home and tackle more projects throughout this year. That'll definitely give you the confidence to tackle whatever homeownership brings.
All right, very good. Courtney Klosterman with Hippo. I mean, certainly those projects can give us a lot of satisfaction and confidence and really putting some pride into your project, but they can also get you into some financial trouble. So thank you for that insight. Appreciate you this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Awesome. Very good. Well, good luck if you are a weekend warrior at 10:40 on a Friday morning and preparing for some of this wet weather here in the Charlotte area. And like Courtney said, hurricane season officially starts on Sunday, June 1st. So a lot of things to think about as you're doing your spring and summer cleaning. I want to take you back out to a live picture right now. This is Delaware. And it looks like there is an event happening here. It is a Memorial Day service at the Veterans Park, Newcastle, in Newcastle, Delaware, hosted by the Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs, hosted by the Delaware River and Bay Authority. Of course, we can see President Biden there standing up in the background. But let's go ahead and listen in. We are not sure if the president is expected to speak. or just attend. But let's go ahead and listen in live here.
Family members and all veterans in attendance who were not formally recognized. It is now time for our Memorial Day messages. At this time, please welcome former U.S. Senator Tom Carper.
Good morning. How are you doing? Great to be with all of you today. Martha and I are delighted that you're here. We're delighted that we are here. We've been coming here for some of us. Been coming here for quite a while, Mr. President, and it's glad we're able to make it, and delighted that you're all able to make it as well. To all of our elected officials that lead our state, our
All right, we're just waiting for this picture to unfreeze. We'll give it a moment, but we might switch out just for a second as that regroups. All right, this is Gastonia, Claremont Ballpark there. You can see the clouds building as our weather team is tracking some severe weather heading to the Charlotte Metro. So be aware of that later on today, especially from noon to 7. In the meantime, let's get you back out to Delaware. It looks like we were able to pick this reception back up here on WCNC Plus.
This guy right up here probably did more than anybody I know to make sure we have a terrific GI Bill. But thank you for that GI Bill. Thank you for giving me the privilege to serve as your state treasurer, as your congressman, as your governor, and as your United States senator. What a privilege it has been. I want to. My job is to sort of like to introduce the 46th president of the United States. Ever try to introduce somebody that doesn't need an introduction? Well, at this audience with these people and all of you here today,
All right, we are going to break away from that for another minute and take you out to Karen Reed, the retrial in Dedham, Massachusetts. And this is a reconstruction of a crash expert for the defense on Live Impact News.
Text stream event, or the end of the recording of that text stream event.
Correct. The Aperture reports consistently reference everything from the end of the events.
Let's go to slide 9, please. What are we looking at here?
On the left is an excerpt of page 33 from Mr. Burgess's initial report. And what he shows here is he has identified 7 call logs that exist both in the infotainment from Ms. Reed's Lexus and in Mr. O'Keefe's phone. He puts them in a table form. Then he actually goes on and calculates the difference between those 2 times. So that's what I meant by he sort of does the math. He makes my job a little easier, and the numbers are already there. He just never applies these to any of the times. So that's where I step in and say, if I take that 3rd column that he lays out, those are in seconds. If I apply those seconds, that adjustment to 12:31:43, where do we end up with John's interaction window in those times?
What did you conclude in terms of finishing the work?
Sure. I did all of them. And so I highlight on this particular slide, I just highlighted the very first one he has in here. In that case, he identified that Mr. O'Keefe's phone was 2 seconds slow relative to the infotainment system. So if we apply only that adjustment, then John's interaction window becomes positive 28 seconds.
Did Mr. Burgess apply all of the potential offsets?
He didn't apply any of the offsets. He calculated all of them, but he didn't apply any of them.
Did you ultimately apply all of the offsets?
Yes, I did.
And what did you determine?
Regardless of which offset you apply, John's interaction window remains positive. the number changes, but it remains positive.
Let's take a look at those one at a time if we can. Let's have the next slide.
So on this slide, I just took the other end of the spectrum. There's a large range in values in this table. He doesn't actually, Mr. Burgess doesn't show the sign conventions on here, but actually—
What do you mean sign conventions?
Sign conventions, he doesn't show when he calculates the difference whether it's positive or negative. All the numbers in the table don't have a sign, don't have a plus or minus in front of them, but there's an implication. Some of them are plus, some of them are minus. So the first one that we just looked at showed we had 2 seconds slow. There's another value in here that's on the other end of that. It shows that Mr. O'Keefe's phone is 21 seconds fast now relative to the infotainment. So that's the largest value in the table we could take that would bring John's interaction window down now. And so if we apply just that adjustment, John's interaction window becomes a positive 5.
Take a look at slide 11, if we could, please. What are we looking at here?
So I've shifted now from the phone calls, and now we're going to talk about the 3-point turn alignment. And the 3-point turn alignment is first presented in Dr. Welcher's slide from his presentation here. And in this, he doesn't say it explicitly, but he provides some math on the screen, which is a little hard to read. But he puts some math on the screen that shows he's aligning this 0.154 from Mr. O'Keefe's phone to the end of event 1162-1. This is the prior event. This is a 3-point turn. And so he aligns, he says this is basically how you align it, and he doesn't do the math. Again, he lays out that he says a 19.2 second difference. I actually just adjusted that to 20, which is the most conservative way to interpret that. I don't think we have the accuracy here to talk about tenths of a second. Nevertheless, I just rounded that up to 20, and when we apply that 20 seconds to our event 1162-2, then John's interaction window becomes positive 6. That's just applying this. We're not combining anything. We're just applying the difference shown in this slide.
And that positive interaction window, is that calculated based on information directly from Dr. Welcher's report?
Yes.
Let's go to slide 12. What are we looking at here? What is this table?
This is a table I made. We've talked about a lot of different approaches to how these clocks can be aligned and a lot of different variables. So I tried to summarize them in one table, put them all together, because some of them we can combine. We can combine the key on with either a phone call or a 3-point turn, but we can't combine, for example, a 3-point turn and a phone call. That's not valid. So I put all the possible combinations, all of them, with, without key switch, phone calls, and 0.154 on one table, and I calculated John's interaction window for all valid combinations from the aperture reports. And when we do that, the result is that regardless of what adjustment we make, all of the numbers are positive, meaning regardless of what adjustment we make, the phone lock event always occurs after the end of event 1162-2.
Did Mr. Burgess, in your review of his report in January of 2025, did he ever undertake all possible offset calculations?
No.
In his May 2025 report, did he undertake all possible offset calculations?
No.
What is your opinion in terms of best practices regarding calculations of this sort?
I think if there's sufficient data, if there's testing or research or literature that in a specific case supports there is a best path or a best method, then we should use that. In this case, I don't think there is a...
Right now, we want to bring you some breaking news out of Huntersville. HPD, Huntersville Police Department, announcing that there is a missing child pictured there, believed to be with her mom. Huntersville Police saying that they need your help, searching for Lila Willis, 4-year-old Lila Willis, born in March. He may be with this woman pictured, Jennifer Glacken, the biological mother who has active warrants with Huntersville Police Department. That car is pictured. They might be in this Honda Civic, North Carolina plate MK. Make that KMN 7030, last seen Gilead Road and Commerce Center Drive early this morning. So if you have any information, you are asked to call the Huntersville Police Department immediately and try to find Lila Willis. Again, missing child, just coming into the WCNC Plus newsroom here in Charlotte with police looking for this young girl. That is breaking news at this hour here on Live Impact News. We take you back out to Dedham, Massachusetts with the trial underway for Karen Reed.
Of 2025, correct?
That's correct.
In that report, is there the same clock skew alignment or a different clock skew alignment that Mr. Burgess now undertakes?
Mr. Burgess undertakes a different alignment in that report.
Let's go to slide 13. Describe what we're looking at in this slide.
So what I have here on the left is a screenshot of page 42 from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report. And so now he's done two things new here. He's identified a new method for aligning the data based on the 3-point turn. So now he's kind of following where Dr. Welcher started, but he's approaching it a little differently. And secondly, he is now calculating the actual time. He's doing the difference calculation and he's applying that to the time. So now he's taking the calculation all the way through, which is a little different from the prior reports. And so when he does that, he makes my job really easy because I didn't have to do really any math now. He comes up that there is a range now. So prior to this point, the original report by Mr. Burgess and Dr. Welcher reports all used discrete points in time, right? They sought to find an event that occurs at a singular second and another event at a singular second and align based on that. This is a little bit of a departure from that approach. Mr. Burgess is now using a range of times, a range of uncertainty. He basically assesses that the 3-point turn data from the phone and the 3-point turn data in 1162-1 cannot be precisely aligned down to a single point. Rather, they overlap in this range of seconds. And so he then says that range must be applied. So now we have to apply a range. And what we end up with is 9 possible values. So it kind of looks like one conclusion, but really there's 9 conclusions on this slide. And so if we just applying the math he has in the supplemental report, John's interaction window now has a range of 9 possible values. And that range spans from +5 now to -3. So we have 5 positive values. We have 1 value that's 0, and the 0 would mean it's simultaneous. And then we have 3 negative values.
Does Mr. Burgess indicate in his report?
All right, it looks like the former president, President Joe Biden, is taking the stand here at a Memorial Day service in his home state of Delaware. We are going to listen into his live speech now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Charlotte Today coming up at 11. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll leave you with this.
Being the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. The fact is that I don't think if I had come from any other state that would have happened. But in Delaware, everybody knows everybody. And it's important. It's important because, you know, we had that expression for the longest time. We do things the Delaware way. the Delaware way. Members of the House and Senate know, Democrat or Republican, have learned to work together for the benefit of Delaware. Now remember, Tommy, we've been coming here for decades. First time I was here, I was reminded of that quote from R.G. Ingersoll, who said, "When the will defies fear, when duty throws the gauntlet down to fate, when they shun compromise with death, that's heroism." I remember thinking that day, the first time. Thinking about my uncles in World War II, thinking about people I knew, thinking about all the people who had laid down their lives. And ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be with so many friends on this solemn occasion. Tommy, Kyle, Lisa, Sarah, Nolan, and you're all outstanding leaders and proud Delawareans. And Chaplain, thank you for your invocation. And I want to acknowledge the keynote speaker today, a pathbreaker and a patriot, Chief Warrant Officer Ernestine Epps. Ernestine, thank you. Thank you for being willing to do this. I'm looking forward to hearing you. Folks, every year we come together to remember the brave women and men who gave their all for this nation, or as Lincoln called it, the last full measure of devotion. That's what it was, the last full measure of devotion. They laid down their lives so we could live our lives in peace, and maybe the most important word, with possibilities. And I know I speak for everyone here, and when I say we remember them every single day, not just this day, but every day, the people assembled under this tent. Remember them every day. We come together to remember the families that are left behind, the hearts that still carry the weight of their absence, the ache that never fully goes away. We come together to remember the debt we owe to the American military. The military is the solid spine, the spine of our nation. Our troops, our veterans, our military families, and our Gold Star families in particular. Only around 1% of all Americans defend 99% of us. 1%. Just 1% of Americans risk the ultimate sacrifice. We owe them so much more than we can ever repay them. We have many obligations as a nation, but only one truly sacred obligation. Sacred obligation. That's to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them when their families when they come home and when they don't come home. It's a sacred obligation. I know for many of you, Memorial Day, like for us, is deeply personal. For the Bidens, this day is the 10th anniversary of the loss of my son, Bo, who spent a year in Iraq. And to be honest, it's a hard day. His son and I, Hunter, who's here in the crowd, I don't know where you're sitting, Hunter, but all the way in the back there. His daddy came to this event with me about the same age when he started. He just graduated from high school, heading off to college. And you know, it's being with all of you, but quite frankly, makes things a little bit easier. It really does. So thank you for allowing me to grieve with you. Some of you knew my son, Bo. He served in the Delaware National Guard, including a year in Iraq. Remember, I got a phone call. I was in Washington. His dad, what are you doing Friday? I said, what do you need? And he said, I want you to pin my bars on. I said, pin your bars on? You have 2 kids, you know. Dad, somebody's got to do this, Dad. Proudest day of his life was putting that uniform on. That's not a joke. That's not hyperbole. That's real. And you know, it's one of the proudest things I ever did, pinning his bars on him. And it means so much to our family at the headquarters of the Delaware National Guard has been renamed after Bo. His legacy lives on. His children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, like those you lost, will be remembered. They'll remember who he was. And just like the legacy of all our fallen heroes lives on, they live on in us. And they live on in the strength and freedom of our nation. That sounds like hyperbole, but it's real. It's literal. So everyone who came here today to grieve with grief in your heart, please know you're not alone. You'll never be alone. And your loved one will never be forgotten. Period. My friends, Memorial Day is about something profound. Our politics have become so divided and so bitter. All the years I've been doing this, I never thought we'd get to this point. But we are. Our troops don't wear a uniform that says, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. It says, I'm an American. I'm an American. That's who I am. I'm serious about this. I'm not joking. And folks, our politics has become, as I said, so divided. They wear the uniform of the United States of America. The only nation in the world, literally, not free, the only nation in the world founded on an idea. An idea. Every nation was founded on geography, ethnicity, some unifying principle, but not an idea. The idea of America was founded on, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of that. We mean it. That's who we are. That's what makes America the most unique nation in the world, literally, not figuratively. In fact, folks, you know, for generation after generation, the profound idea has been defended by ordinary citizens who stepped up and answered the call. Because of them, American democracy has endured for nearly 250 years. Every generation has to fight to maintain that democracy. Every time, every generation. Because of them, our government is still of the people, by the people and for the people. They are we, and we are still free. And now, we must make sure that sacrifice has never been in vain. Let me close with this. The women and men we honor today who are no longer with us, but you can still hear their echoes. Literally, can't you, if you lost anybody? You can hear their echoes. The echoes of their voices. They're asking, what will we do? We who are alive, we who remain. They're not asking us to risk our lives. They're asking us to stay true to what America stands for. They're not asking us to do their jobs. They're asking us to do our job, to protect our nation in our time, now, to defend democracy, be part of something bigger than ourselves. So today, let's renew our pledge to honor our heroes. I mean this sincerely. Renew our pledge to honor our heroes. Think of what they did. Think what they'd be doing if they were standing here today with us. Not only with our words, with our deeds. To care for their families. To support our veterans. With more, not less. I get really angry when I hear about veterans are seeking too much. They're not enough. That's why I wrote the legislation relating to Gold Star families and the rest. It's an obligation we have. It's a matter of honor. Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, to make sure our democracy always lives up to their bravery. To their bravery. And I want to thank you very much, and I want to recognize the guy who's brand new to all this. He's only a little over 100 years old. But I tell you what, man, every time I come, I love seeing him because he always pats me on the face and gives me a kiss. Sir, thank you for all you've done. Your generation and every generation since then. And folks, And I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, particularly to the Gold Star families. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The country owes you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carr.